Welcome back. Next step in our project is to put everything together. So I have a little bit of water, I have my 2 pieces, and I need a scratchy tool, and then I'm ready to go. So I'm gonna search around here for anything that I think might work as a scratchy tool today. Remember that we're not super picky about what we're using. All right, this is the first thing I found. Now, to put this piece together, it's going to be much easier if you have what's called Bevel the Edges. So I'm going to take my little knife tool and pointing in on an angle, okay, so on an angle, I'm going to cut this side, and I took it out from the underneath, and I'm going to do the same thing to this side, but I'm going to take it off of the top. And it doesn't have to be super perfect, but that's gonna make it way easier to put this together. I'm also going to smooth the edge of this, and you can do that really easily by taking a piece of paper and putting it over the edge and then pressing the edge with your finger. I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna do the same thing with the other edge. Again, I'm just trying to take that little edge off of the top of it because it's easier to do now while it's flat on the table. Okay, so I did both sides. It's not super even, but that's okay because I have my rim. Next thing I'm gonna do is scratch both sides. Okay. And then we're gonna wrap it around our base here. And so I am going to scratch, remember, deep scratches all the way around my base, like that. And then I am going to scratch, let's see, which side do I like more? I think I like that other side more. So I'm gonna scratch the whole base of this. Again, we want it to be wet and scratched. Bam. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna wrap it around my base. I'm gonna push my edges together. I'm gonna turn it sideways so you can see. When I press my edges together, I want to put my hand in the inside to brace, and then I wanna press this over the top of the other edge. Like that. Perfection, perfection, perfection. Perfect. I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna give a squeeze to my base. And then I'm gonna smooth it all to the center. I'm gonna take my rib tool. Nice and smooth. Flip it over, bang, bang, bang. Now I'm gonna do the inside. Again, notice I am smoothing outward. Perfect, all right. Now you might notice in the inside, I can still see that seam a little bit. So I'm gonna give a little bit more of a press. Now that's looking really cute. Now you do get a little smoothness here when you did your merge. So what you can do is after you have your piece together, if you want, you can take your texture tools, okay, and you can go over the top of that section and blend it in, and no one will know, okay? So you can stamp it, you can texture it just like you did before. On the inside curve, you can take your rib and you can rib that a little smoother. Okay, just like that, perfect. Next thing I'm gonna do is add on my rim. So I'm gonna scratch. Okay, and if this is not looking perfectly circular, what you can do is take a cup and just press it in there and squeeze it around the cup, and that will help it go back to a little bit more circular. Okay, and then I'm gonna scratch my rim's other side. I'm going to place my rim on. Now I'm not going to show in this video how I would add the handles again, because you can watch one of the other videos on adding handles. Notice I just cut through my rim from top to bottom so that it will merge perfectly together and I'll be able to get rid of my seam. Okay, look how nice that is. Now I'm going to actually just turn it upside down and clean up the bottom edge while it's upside down. And you can give it a little tap, tap, tap to get a good connection as well. All right, now keep smoothing that out, but notice how pretty that's looking. That would be a really nice little vase the way it is now. You're going to want to add your handles, okay? And we're actually going to add a foot as well. So I'm going to add my foot now. Notice this is a video for the camera, so it's not as perfect as it would be because usually I take a little bit more time with everything. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you today how to do a foot that's a rim. So notice I cut 2 rims and I'm going to actually fold this one so it'll fit perfectly on the bottom. And so this is a foot ring because it's in a ring shape. So it's a foot ring. So now I know it's the perfect shape. I am going to scratch and slip, but I'm not going to leave it as a ring. I'm actually going to show you how you can cut this guy out. There are lots of scratch, deep scratches. Get my ring in position. And I want to make sure it's fully attached, so I'm pressing down with my finger, smoothing the edges. Okay, so once you get your foot ring on, it doesn't have to stay a ring. It could be really fancy. So if you want to perfectly cut it, you can use a ruler, okay? And what a lot of people do is they will do cutouts, removing portions of their foot so it looks more like little feet. So I'm going to make little marks so I know exactly where to cut. So I'm going to use this first cutout as a template, and that way I'll know exactly how big to cut the other ones. And when I'm all done, I will have 4 feet exactly the same size. So this is how you can do the same as a rim, but put it on the bottom of your pot and make these little cutouts so that you are left with 4 almost equal sized feet that are evenly spaced around your pot. All right, so now those are my feet. So next thing I'm going to do is smooth them onto the pot. Yeah, I'm using that merge technique where I press a little bit of the edge down into the scratch and slipped areas. Okay, like that. And then we want to smooth everything back out. This is a good time to use your paintbrush. So for those of you who do not remember, you take a little paintbrush and we get it wet, but not dripping wet. And then you come, I forgot to merge this little part. You come through and you wipe, 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 wipe. And you just keep going until it drags too much. And you add a little bit more water and then you keep going. And it will, you'll be able to completely smooth all of these out with very little effort. It'll look very nice and fancy. Now, once you get these totally smooth, look how evenly spaced they are because you started with a ring and you cut away from the ring and you can measure these perfectly perfect. you can now, if you really want to, I'm not gonna make anybody do this, but I love to add a little texture onto my feet. So you can, easiest way to do it is to flip it over, press it down into that texture. And then look how pretty that is. Now your feet have little texture on them. You have a rim on the top. You are gonna add your handles on and you have your beautiful textured pattern that you made. Great job, everybody. That is your slab built project. It has to have a rim, it has to have feet, and it has to have handles. Now, if your project is a rectangular prism instead of being round, you have to do an extra step. The extra step is to roll little coils. Okay, so this is the extra step. You're gonna roll little coils of clay. And you're gonna use these little bits of clay to hold the whole thing together. I'm gonna dip it in my water so they're nice and wet. And everywhere on your rectangular prism that you're adding a seam, because you're not getting a good overlap like with a round, you're gonna wanna take this clay, and you notice I'm just squishing it into the seam and until it's totally smooth. That's what you're gonna wanna do, is you're gonna see how when it's wet, it just smooths right in so easily. And that clay was a little bit dry. So I just dipped it into the water, and then I'm able to smooth it into that seam. See that seam? And you're gonna wanna keep smoothing. And this will work perfectly if you have a corner. So for instance, I'll do it again. Let's say that you're making a rectangular object and you're trying to combine these two pieces, okay, like that. When you scratch and slip, this will be a very weak corner, and they tend to crack away from each other in the kiln, in the firing, even if you think it looks really, really smooth. So you'll see, you know, I've smoothed it, okay, but it's not. It looks really smooth, but it's not well joined. And that's because there's no easy way to smooth that inside joint. So you're gonna wanna roll yourself a coil, dip it in your water, and place it in that seam. And then you're gonna wanna run your finger until that clay, see how well merged that is? That's gonna hold that inside seam nice and tight through the bisque firing and the glaze firing. So notice that's the way you wanna join if you're trying to build a rectangular shape. Those inside corners, you need to put a little coil, okay, dip it in your water, and then on that inside joint, just like that, you wanna rub it really, really well until it fills the joint, and your corner will end up looking rounded. All right, get to work and have a great time.